Let's begin in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most generous. Today, we have a fascinating story from the Holy Quran that will make you think and reflect. So let's dive into it. In Surah Al-Araf, there's a story where Allah asks Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to share a story with the Jews. This story is about a man who was blessed by Allah, but chose to follow the devil and went astray. Allah could have made this man very successful, but he chose to chase worldly desires and focused only on materialistic things. His example is compared to that of a dog, always restless and never finding peace, whether in chaos or calm. Allah tells Prophet Muhammad to share this story with those who deny his signs, hoping that they will think deeply about it. Scholars have identified this man as Balam, the son of Bara, who lived during the time of Moses in Canaan. Some believe his name was Umayyah bin Abi al-Salat al-Sakufi from Yemen. Balam belonged to the Bani Israel but lived among a community of non-believers known as Qawm Jabarin. He was a knowledgeable scholar and known for his faith and piety. Balam had deep spiritual knowledge that brought him closer to Allah, and his prayers were always answered. Surprisingly, his story is also found in the Talmud. Now, let's get into the story itself. When Moses led the army of Bani Israel from the Levant to Canaan to fight against the non-believers, Balaam's people asked for his help. They were afraid of Moses and his army, fearing that they would be replaced by the children of Israel if they were defeated. They begged Balaam to pray to his God, asking for the destruction of Moses' army because they couldn't defend themselves. Balaam, who believed in Allah and recognized Moses as a prophet, initially refused their request. But his people kept pressuring him to help their nation. Feeling confused, Balaam decided to sleep on it and seek Allah's guidance. During his sleep, he received a message from Allah confirming that he should not fight against Moses and his army. However, when Balaam shared this revelation with his people, they managed to change his mind by flattering him, giving him gifts and gold. Unfortunately, this is where the devil's tricks come into play. Balaam fell into the trap of his own desires and greed, abandoning his faith and becoming a follower of the devil. He let the devil take complete control of him. Balaam rode his donkey and went towards Mount Hisbon with the intention of praying against Moses and his troops. On the way, his donkey stopped 3 times, but under the influence of the devil, Balaam cruelly beat the animal each time. On the 3rd stop, something amazing happened. The donkey spoke to Balaam in a human voice. It said, "Can't you see? Angels are stopping me from reaching the mountain." However, Balaam, still under the spell of the devil, ignored this incredible occurrence. Finally, when Balaam reached his destination and started praying against the army of Moses, he couldn't remember the greatest name of Allah, Ism Azam. Instead, his prayers turned against his own people, causing them to die. They realized that something was wrong because Balaam's prayer was harming him instead of the troops of Bani Israel. The more he prayed for the destruction of Bani Israel, the more it backfired on his own people. Balaam's tongue even hung out of his mouth like a dog, constantly reminding him of his grave mistake. Realizing the seriousness of his actions, Balaam understood that he had sold his soul to the devil with no chance of redemption. Under the complete control of the devil, he told his nation that the only way to destroy the army of Bani Israel was to send their beautiful women to seduce the soldiers into committing sins. He believed that this act would invoke God's wrath and lead to their ultimate destruction. The king even offered his own exceptionally beautiful daughter to carry out this plan. He instructed her to go to Moses' tent and tempt him into sin. The women, including the king's daughter, reached the army of Moses, but one of the sons of Aaron captured the king's daughter. He brought her to Moses and asked if she was permissible for him. Moses refused, saying that neither he nor his associates should engage in any sinful acts with them. He immediately ordered the women to be returned. However, the men in Moses' army, who had been away from their homes for a long time, gave in to the temptations of the devil and committed sins. As a consequence of their wrongdoing, a pandemic broke out among the army of Bani Israel. Nearly 70,000 soldiers fell ill and died, leaving the remaining troops in distress. They returned to Palestine without achieving victory, deeply disappointing Moses, who had warned them against such actions. Bal'am, on the other hand, faced the consequences of his betrayal. For the rest of his life, his tongue hung out of his mouth like a bib, resembling a dog that constantly displays its long tongue. He had lost his faith and died as a disbeliever, forever condemned. It's tragic to think that he could have reached the highest levels of piety by remaining obedient to Allah, but he chose worldly desires over eternal paradise. Ultimately, he was destroyed by the devil. It's interesting to note that the mention of a dog appears in two different contexts in the Quran. In Surah Al-Araf, as we discussed earlier, the dog symbolizes restlessness, represented by its hanging tongue. In Surah Al-Kahf, however, the dog represents loyalty and fear. These contrasting portrayals serve to highlight different aspects and lessons for us to think about. Allah also commands the believers to be mindful of Him in a thoughtful way, recognizing His greatness and submitting to Him completely. As mentioned in Surah Al-Imran, verse 102, O you who have believed, fear Allah as He should be feared and do not die except as Muslims. So, there you have it, an interesting story from the Quran that encourages us to think about the consequences of our actions and the importance of staying true to our faith. We hope you found this story informative, and may it remind you to always choose the path of goodness. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories and insightful content. Until next time, take care, stay blessed, and keep seeking knowledge.